What I'm going to be talking about is actually, it's going to be less about the API and more about this tool that I've been using. When I first got into SEO, SEO at an agency in City Hall. First I graduated from MnSearch University in 2010 in Atlanta, Georgia. And first SEO gig was in the agency in City Hall. And then now I'm working for Josh as an SEO specialist at Rasmussen College. And so I came from not so much of a technical background as many of you guys might be coming from. So I needed to find a way to automate the process that I was doing. So so before we get cut out a lot of the, okay, this looks like a Pac-Man game or something, but this is the framework that I work around in terms of efficiency. So I look for, or I want to spend less time, this is capturing data, and more time driving action, right? And so in the first two talks, they were talking about asking these different types of questions like why, how, and that's what you want to get to the bottom line, right? And so my problem was when I first got into Rasmussen College was I was entrusted with this monthly report. And I mean, it was just enormous. Like I wasn't used to the data and having to go switch back and forth from analytics into Excel. But this is the philosophy that I had. If I want to save time, I want to save time to ask the questions, because ultimately we are trying to figure out the people behind the data. And so ultimately you want to find purpose, right? Find purpose in the data that you're pulling. This is my favorite sports team by far. It's the Rasmussen Team Duncan. This is when they first won their championship. And I was very proud in that moment. But you want to find purpose. The reason why you want to find purpose in your data is because then you become very deliberate with what you're looking for. And that's immense because once you're deliberate about your data, then you also have a goal that you are reaching and striving for. And the problem is, because we have an X amount of time, X amount of hours in a day, opportunity cost is huge, right? Let's say you have a deadline for 3 hours or 4 hours, the less time you have, the more costly every minute is. And so I wanted to make sure that I was spending less time populating my reports and more time writing up insights. And so if I spend more time capturing data, I lose. I lose, my team loses, my boss loses, and then the entire organization loses because we're not driving any sort of change, any action. So automation. So I was looking for automation. I was trying to figure out, I was reading about blog posts everywhere to see how I can automate this process. And coming from someone that didn't really do any coding or anything like that, I was looking for some sort of tool, right, to get me access to the API and to the analytics. This should be helpful for those that are not technical. So automation is your wingman, right, or your wingwoman to unlock insight. Because now you have more time to multitask when you drag and drop and just let it, populate. And while you're doing that, you can be doing other things that are driving action and making change. So this was the original, it's like the format, but this was the step that I had to take to populate my monthly reports. So first, I had to check the boxes of 4 advanced segments because that's the maximum amount of segments you can view and review. So I checked that, wait for the progress bar, but because we had so many segments, I had to constantly watch the bar go left and right, and I was just pissed off. I mean, it's annoying. And so third, you have to memorize the 4 values of the metric that you want. So at this time, we do visits, conversions, and conversion rates. So I have to memorize the visits, go back, Alt-Tab to the spreadsheet, fill in those cells, and then Alt-Tab back to GA, uncheck those segments, and I mean, it was disastrous, right? So I calculated it to see how many steps I was taking. So at 5 times 60, we have around 60, 65 segments, divided by the maximum views you have for each segment, or for each view in Google Analytics, which is 4. So 5 times 15, 75 steps. Then we have 3 different metrics. So 75 times 3 is 225 steps. That sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. Granted, each of these steps here takes, not maybe like 10 seconds or 15 seconds, but it does make a difference. So I definitely needed a solution. And this was after SEO Tools. So SEO Tools is an Excel API, or is an Excel extension that you can just add, which I'll include a link at the end, which gives you an instruction on how to do it. So this enabled me to, 1, copy paste the formula into the top cell of my report. 2, drag the fill handle, or double click, or whatever you want to do. And while waiting for the process to finish, I work on other tasks. It's 3 steps, right? 3 steps. So the old process was 225 steps. And now with SEO Tools, because it accesses the Google Analytics API to do this, it takes me 9 steps to finish this report. And I felt unstoppable, right? I thought like I was on top of the world. And so it's amazing because that's why I really respect the technical people. They're able to just make magic happen for us, for people like me. And this SEO tool, the way that it works is that it accesses, like I said, the Google Analytics API. So you don't have to even leave Excel at all. You can stay on Excel, not have to exchange browser or switch up to browsers, and pretty much pull. So an API stands for those that don't know, API stands for Application Programming Interface. And it's like a fancy way of saying that it's a tool that allows you to communicate with any other external service, which in this case, for my case, was Google Analytics. And everyone can have access to that as long as you have the member ID or like the unique ID that you have and attached with the credentials. And once you have that, I mean, you're unlocked to all this information that you need. So this, I'm not going to go into logging in and installing it because that'll be the links when you guys put that later on. But if you successfully install it, that should appear in a ribbon in your Excel, the ribbon, SEO tool. So you can already tell you can do on-page, off-page content, just to get SEO Analytics, I don't use that. Google Analytics, you can scrape using this, you can check your social metrics, everything, right? It's ridiculous. This is a really powerful tool because you have access to all these different services, right? Without having to leave Excel. And this is a little list I did a screenshot of what is underneath the on-page, link count, HTML, check out what the canonical is. I mean, it's highly useful. But because of time, I only go into the Google Analytics. So where do I start? First, you have to find the unique GA ID for each segment. So for some people, it might not take too much if you only have like 5 event segments. But I think it was Dan who was talking about just segment out everything, right? And so when you have hundreds of segments, which we don't, we have 60, so I'm thankful for that. But this is going to take a long time. This is where the initial investment is. Because you have to, actually there's a way through the management API, you can do Google Analytics, which I wasn't able to figure out. If you guys know how to do that, I'd love to figure out how to do that. So my way of doing it was I had to insert the formula for each segment. And when you click on the Google Analytics icon, that means more on that, this menu will appear. And this, you can select the profile that you need. You can select the metrics, the date, or the time frame, which is, I usually do it by last month. You can do it by week, you can do custom if you want. The dimension, I don't really use the dimension, and then the segments. So all those segments that you've created will be in this tool here. And in this example, I'll be doing just the non-paid search traffic. And 2 things you want to make sure that you do is you want to exclude the headers and result and select the radio button for formula. The reason being is if you don't exclude the headers and result, you won't be able to drag and drop, right? It's because the formatting is off. You might have to delete it, copy paste, and you have to shift things out of place. And it's just really annoying. And also for the formula, you need to see what the output is. The way that Google Analytics API reads the formula to give you that value. And also within the formula, they'll I guess reveal or show you what the unique ID is for your segments. So this is what happens after you inserted the value. This is what they spit back out. And this is a nested formula. But here you can see the GA, which is the account profile. Then you have the metric that you're looking at. The 2 things that we want to be that is of interest is the date range and the unique segment GA ID, because that is what we're going to be breaking down. So that in the next slides, or in a couple slides, we'll be using the ampersands and Excel references in order to make sure that this drag and drop magic happens. And also, after you've pulled all of the unique IDs in for all your segments, I suggest you put it into a table so that you can use Excel to do its magic and drag and drop. And this is the way that I've done it. I'm sure there's other people that have done it differently. And this was I just made those numbers up, and this is for a church that I attend. I just thought of what segments I would do quickly, and that's what we came up with for a little bit. So this is the original formula, and this here is a revised formula. All I'm doing is I'm referencing each of those cells and I'm locking them using Excel references. Hopefully in the SlideShare or whatever, you guys can take a look at that and use it for yourself, because it took me a little bit of time to figure it out, but I did, and it works. So now this is just the date and just the GAID section. So I don't know how many of you guys know how to use Excel references when you just F4 on the cell in question, right? So for example, over there you have API A3, so it's calling the sheet, the AP that's titled API. So if you hit F4 once, it's going to do an absolute reference, which means that when you're copying down a formula, that cell is locked in. So as you're dragging, dropping, whatever you want to do, it stays on that cell. And then the second one that I use is a mixed reference. You can either lock the column or you can lock the row. So depending on where you put the dollar sign in front of, so you can hit it twice or you can hit it 3 times. And I use absolute reference for everything except for the only variable that's changing, which is the unique ID. So I just did that for the month, the day, the year, and so forth. And so all you have to do is drag, drop, and lock it, right? You put it up onto the top cell, the fill handle, drag it down, you're done, right? Easy. And this is what we call like a hack, right? For me, it would be a hack because I just saved a lot of time. I've saved 216 steps for myself. And this was amazing. You know, I gave myself a pat on the back. 2 things that you need to make sure that you do. You want to save your Excel formulas because you don't want to rewrite the formulas every single time. I mean, even if you have it memorized, it's going to be annoying just having to do it. So save it either in a notepad, or what I do is I just save it in a text box within the same spreadsheet. So I have easy access to that. Second, you want to copy and paste special the values. Now, the one issue is that if you don't copy and paste paste special the values, what's going to happen is when you exit the program, or when you exit Excel and you reopen it, it's going to recalculate it again. And you're going to have to sit there and look at the processing. It's going to, depending on how many segments you have, it can take 5 minutes to 30 minutes to an hour, which is crazy. And so imagine you go to work and you're ready to drive action, right? You're ready to look at the story behind the data, and you see it processing at 1%, 2%. I mean, it's a huge buzzkill, right? So once you have that, you get your groove on, right? Because now you have all the time in the world to figure out why people are doing what they're doing on our website. And so I found this random picture of, and this is at a family event. I think this is on like a Tumblr or something like that. But,
I went partying with you.
Yeah. So this is how I felt. I didn't do this exactly. And then so these are the links that I provided. So the first one is the SEO Tools for Excel. It's created by Niels Bosma, and I found that out initially from SEO Mods Distilled, SEO Gadget. I believe someone else tweeted out, but Richard Baxter talked about it. They were just, just giving high marks on this tool, just because you don't have to leave at all. It's completely just so efficient. Then the other one is a Google Chrome plugin, straight to Google Analytics. So if you guys use Google Chrome, what this does is rather than having to log into your Google Analytics like every time, or at least every session, you have to log in once, and once let's say you bookmark Google Analytics, you click it and it takes you straight to your profiles, or straight to your accounts. Yes, it doesn't take too much time to log in, but it's super convenient when you use it. And then these are the 2 blog posts that I read before I decided to get SEO Tools. And the thing is, SEO Tools is free. So, I mean, if you don't have a proprietary tool right now, or if you're looking to do site audits, if you're looking to just do some quick analysis or a quick correlation, you should use SEO Tools, because what happens is, or when you're looking at the ribbon, you can combine your analytics data to your on-page data, or you can even look up the page rank, you can look up whatever it is. I mean, this tool is extremely powerful. So I hope that will save you time and really find the why behind your data.